But yeah, the video files have gotten like the Blast project. So moving away from spatial for a minute is nice because it's like, oh, look, I can do things normally.
Right.
The downside is because I'm going now 3 cameras 4K, the project file was 168 gigs or something like that, which, you know, the machines eat up and they handle it really well,
Sure,
but it's...
You need a new external disk drive for every single episode.
It's bad. I have to, what I'm doing is like literally purging and then like cold storage. I've got, you know, the project one, I've got a hot storage, a cold storage, because it's just crazy how much I have to like, and it's fun because it's like, you know, it's back to the roots of doing all that fun stuff. But yeah, it's, you know, you trade one technological production hurdle for a different one.
That's it. Yes. Yep. And all for the sake of those handful of viewers that actually watch the videos.
That's right. Well, and you know, to be fair, our YouTube shorts do get a lot of views.
They do, yeah. So. And I really like watching the videos, actually.
They are fun.
I know, because it feels like you're part of the conversation.
Yeah,
right?
you know, I mean, we talked about this at length before in our, I think it was our last
This is a very physical sort of podcast.
It is a relational podcast. And
no, this is actually sounding bad. Let's sort of restart this.
HR is going to knock on the door here in a second. Well, I mean, I would say we take great aims, as we've talked before, about creating the community and the relational podcast. And we even take aims. Our cameras are set up literally around this table as if they were in the other chairs. So if you're one of our, you know, either a new listener or if you're one of our faithful many who have been with us from the beginning, and if you're curious, if you've never watched any of our shows, just
on YouTube,
on YouTube and Spotify, actually.
Oh, right. You've got video on Spotify.
Yeah, not all of them because their system's a little clunky, but the last, I think, I want to say 15, 20 episodes.
Oh, right. Okay. I hadn't even noticed that.
Yeah, YouTube, and it was a newer thing, you know, somewhat recently that YouTube started, or not YouTube, Spotify started offering the ability to do videos on their platform as well. So audio first, but I do then after it launches, I go in and I take the video and I put it there as well. So, but yeah, so but anyway, so if you've only ever listened and you're like, what are they talking about? What do they look like? What's that thing behind Sean and Andrew? I don't know. And
check it out.
Yeah. And actually, as I'm looking at that, I forgot to turn that light on over there. It's bugging me. I'm going to step away. Hold on. This is going to make for some great audio.
So just to clarify, this is the light that nobody can see apart from Sean, but he has to have it on.
It makes me happy.
Right. Actually, there is a nice purple sheen coming off the top of your head now.
You know, it takes away from the regular sheen. Again, you have to watch the video to see what we're talking about. But if you are, like I said, you know, what's crazy to me was going back, I don't know, a few months now, where YouTube suddenly became one of the hottest locations for people consuming podcasts. Right. Which it kind of doesn't make a lot of sense when you think about it. Because you're like, well, is everyone watching podcasts? Right. Well, and a lot of it is, one, there are, again, coming back to what we talked a little bit, you know, last time on our post-anniversary, 53rd, whatever, past the first year episode, is, you know, there are lots of very high profile A-listers out there, celebrities who do these podcasts. I mean, people like Trevor Noah, right? Who used to run The Daily Show. He has a podcast, of course, and it is very highly produced. It's got multiple cameras with operators and all this kind of fancy stuff. So it's still cut together just like a Daily Show, right? Yes. In many ways. So that you can see those types of podcasts would be, they're TV. Right. Yes, TV with bigger microphones and bigger headphones and stuff like that. But a lot of people, they just play the podcast just as an audio player. Even though it's video, it goes on the background, it goes on the TV, and it plays in the home or office.
But that's how a lot of people even watch video these days. They'll put a movie on and it's just there in the background. They're off doing other stuff. Occasionally they'll watch it and they're listening. So,
I know. Yeah. I say I can feel that too. Like I'm guilty of that as well. And originally I thought maybe it was just because of, you know, just where I am in life with small kids and not having time or whatever. But even that, I'm like, I find it normally like I don't consume films or movies the way I used to. Like I don't make time for them the way I used to. That a lot of times it's like 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there. Or sometimes, you know, you're like, oh, you know,
the attention economy, your attention is always being pulled off somewhere else.
It is. And also like because, you know, we've been, well, does anybody even use the term cord cutter anymore for like TV? So we've not had cable television. I haven't had cable television in, more than 15 years.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And
no, I think it's so old that I don't think people do
no
use
one
that
even
term.
uses that term anymore.
I want to get people to sort of email us if you still use cable, an actual cable coming out of the wall going into your TV.
That's right. Fire up your gas generator.
Right.
Write us an email from circa the technology from 1978.
Right.
But no, it's funny because I was just thinking about that. This concept of cord cutting, like no one, I think, and also the fact that we're now coming all the way full circle. Which, back then this thing was, why am I paying so much for my cable bill? I don't watch these channels. I just want to pay for the few channels I do watch. And then I remember I was a young man saying, yeah, but all they're going to do is then charge you a lot of money for all those other channels. And you're going to end up wishing there was, and here we are again going
about 10 or 20 things you're subscribing to.
And now here we are with subscription fatigue going, man, if only there was a way we could bundle all these things together again and for one price.
Right.
I'm like, and here we are.
Yes.
But I kind of lost what I was talking when the whole point of that. But watching things on YouTube, I was coming back to this idea is like, because we don't have like cable TV anymore, I don't usually have stuff on just in the background anymore.
Yes. Yeah. It has to be somewhat intentional.
Yeah. I mean, I remember growing up, when I lived in, like college and stuff like that, like TBS in the United States or whatever, like Turner Broadcast Station, I guess it was called. It would have like old sitcoms or movies or whatever. And you're like, it's just great. It's just great background. And now I'm like, because now, on the Apple TV or whatever, I have to go click and turn a thing. It's not just like, just learn on. But apparently people are filling that void with YouTube.
There we are.
So if you would like to fill your void of YouTube with Modem Futura,
yes,
we make damn good programming, but we also are a good background filler.
There we are.
You can learn and soak it in just in the background. Absolutely fantastic. I think we have. I brought a bunch of fun stuff.
Okay,
because I want to be gentle. Because just like the episode where we had Jamie on after he landed from his trip to Japan.
Yes,
I've got you back in the studio.
Just back from a long trip to Lisbon.
From Lisbon, like it's less than a day.
12 hours. 12 hours. Actually, a little bit more than 12 hours, but not too much.
So you're right in that sweet spot where I'm like, we might get some really good stuff out of it.
I have no idea what I'm saying.
I think I maybe have said this when Jamie was on that time, but I've often, with jet lag going back and forth, especially across in the US, like going from, the US to Europe or somewhere and back and forth. I used to describe this feel. It's this weird feeling of jet lag where you would get to a certain level of it where it was like you could essentially like see sound and taste color.
I know.
Where you're just
gets
like
really trippy.
It gets really trippy. And you're just like, I don't really know what's real anymore or what's happening. And there's for a short period of time, that's somewhat, you can kind of enjoy that. But then also if it extends any longer than that period, suddenly you're like, this is bad.
Yeah.
So we'll try to keep it within the good part of that piece.
Okay.
So why don't we take a break and then we'll introduce the show formally and then we'll launch in because I've got a couple things we can talk about. And then as we do with the show, we'll see wherever it goes.
That sounds good.
All right. Well, welcome to Modem Futura, the show that explores the intersection of technology, society, and the possible, probable, and preferable futures, asking deep questions like what will it mean to be human in the future? I'm Sean Leahy, joined by my very jet-lagged co-host extraordinaire,
Andrew Maynard.
Yes.
I remembered the name.
Yeah, he got that. Check one. Hey, now to be fair, there's been many episodes where I've butchered like our intro, our name. So you got nothing to worry about. So right off the bat, I do want to talk about a little thing that's sitting right here.
Yes.
Because this is, last time we had in hand, we only had like mock-ups. This is it.
This is the real book.
The real deal.
AI and the Art of Being Human book. Yes.
That's right.
With my good colleague and friend, Jeff.
Yes. Subtitle, A Practical Guide to Thriving with AI While Rediscovering Yourself in the Process.
Yes.
With, if I remember correctly, 21 tools.
21 tools, yes.
And we talked about this at length when Jeff joined us.
We did a couple of weeks ago, yes.
Which is, I think that was episode 52. 51, I don't know, whatever. I'll link it. But really, anyways, I would highly recommend people go back and listen to that because we go deep into like the genesis of, kudos to him. I'm going to pat myself on the back. I broke it down into 3 pieces. It was like, where'd the idea come from? How'd you make it? And what's next, right?
You had structure.
I had structure. I did. You know.
But of course, and we're talking about this because this week when we're recording at the moment, this is the official launch week. And that's why I was in Lisbon. Because this is a global book. This is not a US book. It was launched globally in Portugal, in Lisbon.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm just curious for those listening too. I mean, so it was launched in Lisbon with, it was at a business school.
Yeah, so we 2 or 3 things. So it was launched through this global initiative, AI Salon, that we talked about a couple of episodes ago with Jeff, that was founded by Jeff. 60 plus chapters all around the world. So we were working within that community, but then we also had a big launch at AESE, which is a big private business school in Lisbon, which was a fantastic audience. But what I loved about this was, I'm coming at this as an academic, but these were all VC funders, venture capitalists. They were startup founders.
Serious business people.
These are serious business people. These are not people who just want to indulge in academic conversation. They want hard-nosed advice. And so it was incredibly gratifying to work with this community and see how the book was resonating.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely fantastic. And Lisbon, what a great city.
Oh,
I mean, I was just there. I mean, when that was, it was in the spring sometime, not just a few months ago. And I'm like, what a wonderful town. Wonderful place. No, this is absolutely fantastic. And I will say the textual feel of this, it's got
the paperback feels so good, doesn't it? Yes.
And for people who, if you're listening or watching, you can't touch it. But it has that like soft touch feel where it's not quite rubbery, but not paper either, and it's
incredibly tactile. So yes.
Dare I say sensual?
Sensual.
Oh my God, HR is going to come burst out the door. Right. I don't know what's happening right now. We're gonna get. I'm just going to stop. We're getting in trouble.
I know. But I would say so. I mean, it
has such a nice feel to it.
I know it. So it's available in the Kindle version, hardback, and the paperback version. I really like the paperback version.
Yeah.
And it's a good balance between sort of the price and what you actually get in your hand.
And I mean, again, not to oversell the book, but what I like about this book too, which I was sharing with you even when I got to see some of the glimpses of like the format, the size format for the mock-ups, is this is the size of a book I always want them to be.
Right.
Which is, do you know what the dimensions are? It's like 5 by...
No, it's 6 by 9.
6 by 9? 6 inches by 9 inches.
I know it intimately, having
I don't know what the centimeter is on that.
Yes.
Divide by or multiply by 2.54. And there's your centimeters.
Yeah.
But it's the right size that is portable, but not small,
right?
Big enough, but not heavy. And it's great. Also, great travel book because of its flexibility. Great for a backpack.
I would say we have plans in the works for a pocket edition, which will it's going to be smaller than that. So truly able to put in your pocket. Wow. So same sort of feel to it, but again, sort of 4¼ inches by 7. So actually significantly smaller. We're going to take out some of the take out some of the material and just leave the essential tools and the stories and narratives.
Slim down version.
So yes, I mean that will be great for you, but for anybody that wants something just to slip in their back pocket, that is going to be the next thing.
Or perfect for train rides or put it in your briefcase or your backpack or whatever.
Or somewhere.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. Well, congratulations again.
Thank you. Yes.
I mean, it was a huge deal when you guys were talking about it pre-launch, but also, and I know, you wouldn't go so far to say it too, but I mean, I know it's hitting like tops of charts in terms of like the business. Was it category as business and technology or business?
We've got three categories on Amazon where it's in the top 10 bestsellers at the moment, and I can't. One of them is sort of general sort of engineering and technology.
Yeah.
One is a business category.
Yeah, it's been fantastic to watch, and just an absolute joy to see the success. Also, I'm hoping now, today not included because of the jet lag, but I'm hoping you can finally get some sleep. But it's been amazing. I think the book itself. I think again, the excitement that builds around it is not the fact that you guys wrote this book or how you wrote, even though those all are very interesting on their own right. I think it is actually a book that has value in the sense that you can use it for your own. You bring your context to it.
No, and I would
it's
say
helpful.
And so I can say this because I co-authored with Jeff. So it's not just sort of me. It's us, and it's us working with ChatGPT or Claude in this case, and a whole community. But every day that I see where AI is going and the challenges that people are facing with it in terms of how do they use this in a way which is productive, but still retain a sense of who they are.
Yeah.
The book seems to be becoming more and more relevant every day. So even this past week, hearing the stories about Sam Altman saying that with ChatGPT, they're pulling back on some of the guardrails around sort of how it behaves, especially with adult content.
Yeah, like erotica and stuff, right?
Right. And so now you've got the challenge of what happens when people have this tool, which in some ways is very liberating because you're not having somebody impose their views on how it works with you.
Yep.
But at the same time, that puts all the responsibility into your hands with how you use these tools without losing yourself in the process.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what this book is about. How do you retain that core of what is important to you and build and protect that value and grow that value as you're using these tools as they evolve?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, it's what I think is amazing. And I mean, you couldn't have planned it this way.
Right.
But at the same time, it's also, I think, a testament to the work that we do, the way we think about things, right, is not to think about where they are, but think about where they're going.
That's it.
Right.
Yes,
is because I think this book, if you just were to lay this down in the timeline of history, we're going to run over it in the sense that like, oh, look at this book that we need right now, here.
Yes, yep.
Because I think that's the very issue right now is we're seeing, we've talked about it here on Modem Futura. We've talked about the growing sentiment of backlash, the growing, and I think that's a natural thing because it starts to pull into question and starting to raise really serious questions around these things is, again, what does it mean? Where is the boundary? Where is the fulcrum, the tipping point between something that is purely human and something that is, technologically intertwined or sort of, we use whatever metaphor you want, the hybrid, the senator, the reverse senator, whatever, all the way to purely, generative AI created.
Right.
Where is that balance and where do we fit and what does it mean for us and how do we see ourselves in that?
See, that's exactly it. And I think the thing that a lot of people still don't fully realize yet is this is a technology of the likes that we've never, ever seen before. So this is a technology that gets into our heads and messes with our heads.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that in a bad way because in some ways it's incredibly liberating. But the fact is that this is a technology that slips past all of those sort of external barriers and gets to the heart of who we are, our irrationalities, our biases, the ways that we can be persuaded to think in different ways. This technology is in there. And it's messing with us.
It is.
And so we've got to work out sort of how to deal with that.
It is. And I think the argument that used to be made quite a bit, which is, we've been here before, we've done all that stuff. I think that argument is actually starting to erode relatively quickly as we are seeing more and more capability. One of the things I had written down that we can touch on too is a little bit of some of the issues, which is also somewhat related to the backlash around Sora 2.
Yes.
Right? So I think our last episode, I think we were talking about like it literally had launched that morning or something.
Yes.
Do you have access to it yet?
Oh, I do. No, I've been playing with it. Do you
have any invites? Because I still can't get in.
Oh, I'll send you an invite.
I'm like, we paid $200 a month for this thing, and I'm like, I can't even get access.
You can tell we haven't done this for a couple of weeks. No, I have the invite. I went on to Good Morning Arizona to talk about that. I've created the videos with me in them.
Okay, so you've done see, I'm here. I'm the noob here because I'm like, I still don't have. I'm sitting there going, and again,
and the platform scares the life out of me.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. But also, there's a couple things that are related here. So one is with Sora 2, right? I think there was already a lot of, doubt and questions around what these AI video capabilities could do, right? In terms of that. Now with Sora 2, it's another sort of big step forward in terms of it does things smoother, more efficiently. They look more plausible, more realistic.
They look incredibly realistic, yes.
And to the point where it is difficult. I've caught myself on more than one occasion when you're scrolling through and the content on these doom scrolls, which is always somewhat, it's always somewhat negative, right? There's like something, a bear attacked a dog or something. And you're like, what? And you're like, Sora. Nope, that's not real. But so you have this sort of new thing that's really pushing the boundaries. We have sort of, again, Sam Altman saying like, oh, we're gonna fix some of the issues with whatever. What does fix mean? Again, because we don't know. but then you have the growing backlash around, again, we've got the sloppers, the clankers, right. the work slop, the pod slop, which is a new one that again.
Is that us?
We are the shining light amongst a sea of pod slop.
Authentic stuff, the truly human
That's
stuff.
right.
We ought to actually have that badge, human inside.
That's right. Human made. Yes. We're as weird and awkward as humans can get. But I think that is a new one, because also I'm seeing more and more of this, even just hitting, because I spend a lot of time kind of looking through the charts and seeing my finger is on the pulse in terms of the podcast world, and so much that people are pushing out on LinkedIn and all this kind of stuff. It's all pod slop. These are all AI generated.
Yep.
And it's like, again, you're like, okay, well, if that scratches your itch for you, you're not our audience anyway. But so you have these things going. And I was just listening to a podcast myself this morning where I learned of this group called Noose Research. Have you heard of this group?
No.
It's an open.
Don't think I have.
It's NOUS Research.
Oh, okay. Yes. Because that doesn't sound so good when you actually say it aloud. Noose Research.
Yeah.
I immediately thought
I'm like, well, maybe, right? Maybe I don't know. But I was new to it. But it was interesting because their whole perspective was they are essentially a open sort of nonprofit type of an organization that's doing all open. I guess I don't know if they're nonprofit, but their whole goal is that they are doing transparent and open models, weights, everything. Yep. So not like the things you can get on Hugging Face. For example, OpenAI they put models up there. I've got one of them here we can play with. Llama, all these things. But the models are open weight.
Okay.
But the models themselves are not open. In that sense.
I'm with you. Yes.
And so this group, their aim was, let's do that. Let's go down and we'll open everything up.
Yes. Yep.
And so it's interesting. But their perspective, and this raises, I think, an interesting question, especially as we're talking about with players like OpenAI and any other ones, right? Google is in there, Facebook, who have their own models that for one reason or another, they are putting their fingers on the scale in terms of what it can do. I mean, Grok, another perfect example.
Sure.
Maybe the wrong direction. I don't know, you be the judge. But these organizations are putting guardrails, or what they claim to be guardrails.
Yep.
They are putting things out there because in their perspective, again, right or wrong, that's up for debate, but they say we want to ensure that we are protecting something, our users, whatever. The other side of that coin is no, it's just a tool.
Right.
And why should we hide or restrict anything? It should be the tool is what the information is out there.
Yes.
The AI
the argument
tool,
is everybody's an adult, so they should decide what they do with it.
Yeah. Or it's just the way you would say. So is information bad? And if a AI tool's job is to scrape the information and give it back to you, should there be? And so that Noose Research, they take the approach of, no, we create the tools and the models. How you use them is up to you.
Yes. Which is interesting, but you try and look at analogs, and nothing really works here.
Yeah.
But I was trying to think about other things. I mean, you look at sort of food and junk food. You look at chemicals. So would somebody come out and say, toxins aren't dangerous, it's what you do with them. So everybody should have sort of free choice in sort of whether they make rice in, what they do with it, how they play with it, because they're all grown-ups.
Yep.
And I don't think that would actually go very far.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think that the analogy that the person on the podcast was talking about was like Molotov cocktails.
Yes.
Right. Famously, they're like, well, because if you ask ChatGPT or someone like, how do I make one? It's it's like, nope, can't do that.
That's right.
You're not allowed.
Shuts down.
Yep,
yes.
exactly. Yep. But the information is out there.
Yes.
You can Google it. You can find it.
Yep.
And so the question is, it's like, is same with, and the comparison was made to like the Gutenberg press, right? We're like, surely, as a result of being able to write that information down, more people learned and were able to make weapons, basically, right? But that doesn't mean the Gutenberg press was bad for allowing that to happen, because it was just right. And so that's kind of the angle they're taking, which is hey, if a bad actor does something bad with a tool, they are responsible and should be held accountable, not the tool.
Yes.
And so it kind of gets into that.
And actually, this is a conversation we've had about the internet forever.
Absolutely. Same kind of conversation.
Is it just a conduit, or is there a degree of responsibility there?
And and then also always that follows right along with this, which maybe is too heavy for today,
Right.
is like, well, then who is deciding
that's
what
right,
is
yes,
beyond
yes.
the pale? Who is deciding where those guardrails need to be?
Yep.
And then who's watching the watchman?
See,
right?
that's
Like,
right. But of course, I mean, it works if you've got the right regulatory structure.
Yeah.
So if you've got regulations that say we're not going to look at the tool, we're going to look at the users and the uses and the outcomes, that's fine. But you've got to have that structure within which that takes place.
Yeah, and so it's really interesting. So, so again, we have all these things kind of bubbling together right now.
Yeah. And of course, I have a lot of sympathy here. So one of the questions that I've been raising since ChatGPT came out is, who has the right to decide what is appropriate versus inappropriate behavior in an AI? And it's easy to say if you've got something like ChatGPT that will always tell you, for instance, that climate change is real and you've got to be sort of responsible and take part in ethical practices and things. That's great if that's what you believe.
Yeah.
But it's not great if you feel as if somebody's shoving it down your throat.
Yep.
And so where are the boundaries? And I don't like this idea that somebody decides what ideology your AI is going to have, which is, I guess, one thing that Grok has pulled away from. And yet, if it's open season for ideologies, because you can't have an ideology less ChatGPT or ideology less AI. So who decides sort of what is hard baked into the system?
Yeah, and how do you how do you manage that? How do you proceed with that?
Yep.
Because there's also, I mean, again, there's just this like, again, this brings up a lot of these ideas, right? Which is one that you can start an argument in any
right.
If anyone was like, hey, I would like to be an antagonist and start an argument in my family, at work, at the bar, at the company, is this friction between fact and truth. Right. Where there's this, again, you can have this concept where, a fact is, an observable, measurable thing that happens. Mm-hmm. The truth can be heavily prescriptive based on the perception and the perspective of the individual. Right. So something like, someone was like, well, that's not true. A truth is undeniable. I'm like, no. Like, take temperature.
Yes.
Right. If the temperature is 86 degrees and you ask someone from,
that's the fact.
Yeah. The fact is it is 86 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yes.
Someone from, let's say, the state of Michigan might go, wow, it is so hot.
Right.
The truth is, this is the hottest day I've ever had this summer. Right. Someone from Arizona would go, it's freezing. This is the coldest day in the last 6 months.
So that's where it's your truth.
It's your truth, even though it's the same measurable fact. There are two completely opposite facts, or truths rather, that are true simultaneously.
But even with the fact, I mean, so how precise is that fact?
Well, exactly.
Yes.
What's the level of precision and repeatability of that measurement?
That's right. And what standard are you using to measure that against? So even when you come to things where people say it's just a fact, there are very, very few things that are just
facts.
A fact.
That's right. Yes. Because even then going into, well, exactly what type of thermometer was it? What time of day was it recorded?
So there is a reality there. There is a base reality. It's just how we understand that base reality is incredibly complex.
Yeah. And so you can take that and you can throw that in any conversation and get people all cranky and all kind of upset. But with the reason I bring that up is, again, I think the power of the book that you and Jeff have put together is like, as these things are sort of connecting and snowballing together, like it is becoming more and more challenging to understand why, what's happening, and how do I keep track? How do I think about myself as this world keeps changing faster and faster and faster?
And that to me is the important thing. So yes, the book is completely agnostic as to what AI does and sort of what particular tool you're using. It's forcing you as the user to think, what is important to me? Sort of, what are my parameters? What are my personal guardrails? And how am I going to use those to decide what I do and how I do it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think I think it's becoming more and more prescient as the days go on and get weirder and weirder and weirder.
Right.
It becomes more and more.
So I've got to tell you, and I find this very weird. So we talked about this last time. We worked very closely with AI to write the book, which was an amazing experience. We couldn't have written it without. But having done that, I find myself more and more hungry for doing things without AI.
Yeah.
It has had that effect on me. I want to get to the source and the soul of who I am as a human.
Yep. No, it is interesting. And I would be curious to talk to other people who use it maybe differently.
Right.
Because I think, you and I and others like the way that we use it, we're sort of in that right-hand side of the bell curve where we're using it constantly for everything, experimenting endlessly. Because I would say when I use it, again, I've talked about this quite a bit. There's a lot of fatigue that for me, I feel a lot of fatigue, a cognitive fatigue that comes with using it because I find myself spending so much time being like, nope, that's not it. That's not what I want.
Right.
That's not what I want. That's not what I asked for. That's not what I want.
Yep.
Do it this way, do it this way, do it this way, do it this way,
Yep.
versus just doing it myself.
Right.
Or also you get the results back and you're like, that's good-ish.
Yeah.
And I think there is, again, depending on how much you're using it, how you're using it.
Yeah.
I can feel that's fatigue where it's similar. You start going, this just doesn't have anything in it.
Yep.
It's beautiful. It's written well. But
it's hollow.
It scratches it ticks all the boxes in terms of something, but you're like, but I find no enjoyment reading it.
Right.
It doesn't convey anything to me other than words, which
becomes incredibly transactional.
It becomes very transactional. And it is what it is. It is a tokenized probability machine.
Yep.
That is, it's amazing.
But I'm actually finding this now increasingly with AI-generated images because there is something flat about almost everything you see. Yes, superficially, they are amazing and attractive. But beyond that superficiality, they're just flat and there's a sameness to them that leaves me dull.
It's an interesting thing. And I don't think we'll get it. We won't get into today. But I need to invite some of the co-authors because I wrote a paper with some colleagues around this idea of creativity and AI and where AI sits in the creative process, and where things are intrinsically human and not. And because I think, it's hard to identify, and it's sort of one of those things where when you look at images, as you mentioned, where you look at just endless slop that's coming out, there is a tell that's not a technical tell.
Right.
It's not a tell like, oh, they've got 12 fingers on one hand anymore. Or like, look at that. It didn't put legs on that person.
It's a field.
It's an emptiness.
Yes. Yep.
And I experience the same way, especially as someone who, again, as a photographer and as someone who has consumed visual art and medium for so long, there is something dead about. It's like looking at, some of that uncanny valley where, you can have these beautifully rendered like CG people, like video games are a great example. Yep. They all have dead eyes. Right.
Yes.
And it's sort of like the dead eye version of like the art where you look at it and you're like, it's cool. And some stuff you're like, oh, I could see that would be a cool background for something. But then you're like, but the whole thing as a whole, you're like, it's a little dead.
Yeah. And of course, to me, there's a place for that. I mean, there
absolutely.
have always been sort of artists or graphic artists, whatever, who produce stuff just for sort of putting out there.
Yeah.
And not all of it has to be sort of amazing art.
Not at all.
But it's when everything is just overwhelmed by this, where you just can't get away from it.
Yep. And that's we've talked about this before with just, I don't want to hit on because I don't like the term the dead internet theory, but the overwhelming flood of synthetic media, right? So stuff created by Gen AI or whatever. And the problem that you have is because you become so almost like desensitized because it's everywhere. It's not. I mean, it's even frustrating. And I will. If you allow me a small rant, like
haven't you been ranting already? Yes.
This is the
side rant.
It's like the Russian nesting dolls. Like, we're just going to take this one off, and when you look inside, what's inside?
There's another one.
Another rant. This is a plea for people who use LinkedIn. Can we stop with the endless AI pictures of ourselves that are just, it's like, okay, we get it. You have access to these tools.
Right.
It's becoming a little much.
Hold it. I've got to stop you there, Sean.
Yeah.
Because what do you do every week with Modem Futura?
Hey, I use it. And I own it because that is once a week and it is part of the newsletter and it is the cartoon illustration of our.
So that's our pass. Yeah.
So I like I said, I use AI all the time, but it is once a week. It is used in the same place at the same time, and it's not like, look at me in wearing my top hat and in cyberpunk space. I'm like, enough. Or the other thing that I can see now is I'm starting to be able to spot these a mile away are all the AI headshots.
Interesting.
So
I haven't been looking for
photographs.
those. Yes.
So these are people that I know.
Yes.
So I know what their face looks like. I know who they are.
Yep.
I know what their past photo profile capabilities were based on their social media.
Right.
And all of a sudden now I'm seeing them in these slightly not quite perfect, the headshot is perfect, but I'm like, that's not the dude.
Yep.
Like that clearly that was a picture uploaded to a platform that created an AI headshot.
Right.
And I'm like, again, if you want to do that, if you think that's great, fine. But I'm like, come on, can we stop with this already? Anyway.
Yep.
Okay, that rant is done. I couldn't
If
help
you
myself.
disagree, you know where Sean's email is.
That's right. Come at me, bro. I don't know. Well, again, if you want to use it, that's fine. I'm just getting tired of the slop is starting to wear. Is what I'm saying. It's starting to smell. It's like cheese or fish. You leave it out for too long and it's gone bad.
Maybe it's just a phase. Maybe we'll get over it as a society.
We will. I mean, the pendulum swings, right? And so it'll come back the other way.
But I do have to say, I'm going to keep bringing it back to the book because it is first launch week. That is why on the front cover, we intentionally decided not to use an AI generated image.
Yes.
It was really important to me.
And the other thing I love, I think I mentioned this before, but another reason to get a physical copy, because maybe it'll show up on the Kindle version, I guess, if you do it the same way. But the eye itself has the sort of like pixelated, although they're not pixels because they're round. Or I guess if you go far enough, they are pixels.
It is. They're big pixels.
Yeah, large pixels. That it's a human eye. But the best part about it is as you get closer to it, it's very abstract.
That's right.
And as you move it farther, the camera's too far away for me to make it really.
But it snaps as you get further away.
The further away you get it, because as those do, it comes in higher resolution to the eye.
Yes.
It's really clever. I really enjoy that too because it has
and that was actually one of my students that suggested that. We were playing around with different ideas, and he said, "Well, why do you have an eye there?" So I did this, and I showed it to him when we printed the first book out, and he said, "That's not what I was thinking at all, but I like it."
That's not at all what I thought. No, so that's great. But I like that piece of it too because it's another one of those, which I love those, like, again, those things. There's little layers that you peek. Yes. Because even with that image, the way you investigate the image, it changes.
That's exactly
what you see, right? And I'm like, it's just, again, those little subtleties.
There's the art of being human in that picture.
It's exactly it, right? And as you get closer, you see how it breaks down, and as you pull it away, it comes together, and it's like, again.
And we haven't even got into how we actually created the image. Because it's a composite image. There is an image of a paint splash. It's actually a digital paint splash, but it is human generated.
And that was the first. That
was actually the first cover
which
that I created. Well, I liked.
It was very vibrant.
We ditched. So then we had the second image, which is the human eye, which is sort of pixelated. But then we sort of have the view through the pixelated eye to the paint splash behind.
And that's where it picks up all the
colors. Yes,
which almost looks like a sort of a gradient of like iridescent bright colors because it was very vibrant. It was like
that's right. Yes.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful. I just love things like that. That everything has a story. It has an intent behind it.
And it's the story. Maybe I think you've really hit the point there.
I mean,
if you see just a general piece of AI slop, you don't have the story behind it. But this has got a story.
No, I mean, and it's, it's one of those things where like I do this myself. I mean, we've talked about it on the show. Even the name of our podcast, Modem Futura, is heavily loaded with Easter eggs, with digging deeper, understanding. Even the little if people have ever noticed the little frequency, so the little
logo,
the little sound waves, right? So if people haven't picked up on this, I'll give it away for free. The little logo has an analog wave transitioning to a digital wave, right? So literally embodying the concept of modulating, demodulating a signal, which is taking it from one form and turning it into another. And so it's just, I love all the little little bits of care, little bits of intentionality that are there. And, and the difference is both with this, right, with the eye, with Modem Futura, if I would have used a generative AI tool to come out of it, this podcast would have been called like Futures and Technology, Foresight, and all these things, and colon, all it goes on and on and on. This would have been, ridiculous. And I know we take a hit in our global audience of like people, people don't know what Modem Futura means
Right.
unless you know.
Yeah.
And so, but there's a part of that's like, once you know, you know.
There we are.
And then you're in the family, and now it's amazing.
Right.
But yeah, so it's, it's those things have intent that we don't go necessarily for.
Yes. And care, which of course is one of the things we talk about in the book.
That is what is important, not
Yes.
about getting that instant flash hit of like, it's the title or the name is what,
Yep.
we're not, it wasn't gamed to be SEO driven. It was like, no, it's meaningful for these reasons and care. And if we take a hit on, it's not,
we'll take it.
We'll take it
Yes.
because the people who end up here are the people we want here. And this is the community that thrives. And right.
So if you're listening, you're special.
That's right. Thank you. You are part of the club. So, okay, moving on.
Yes.
Some other things I want to talk about. How are we doing on time today? Anyway, we're cooking right through. Geez, I got through one thing. I got one bullet point. I've got like 8, and we got through one. Other news. I want to bring this up because I think it's fine for me to read something on LinkedIn, right? That's public enough.
Yeah.
Other news, other OpenAI news again, is the partnership with in the US, the gigantic retail juggernaut Walmart, in their deal. I think Walmart's the only company that now is partnered with OpenAI to allow you to buy products without any storefront directly through ChatGPT.
Right. So tell me about this, because when I was traveling, I saw the headlines, but didn't have a chance to actually dig into it.
I haven't done it. I don't want to do it, but I was.
Can you actually do it at the moment, or is this being rolled out?
No, it is live, and so if I go, let me just show you.
Can you buy the book?
Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can try.
Most definitely not.
So if I click here, I'm going to show you this. So if you click on your name, you have a tab now that says orders.
Oh, wow.
And
right.
so,
yes.
So now you get this tab
yes.
that says no orders yet. Products you buy with ChatGPT, show here. And I'm like, okay, so it's interesting. So now you have this ability. And again, this is the little pinpoint.
Yes.
Is ChatGPT, Walmart, they make a business deal that now you can buy Walmart products through ChatGPT.
Right.
On the face of it, you might go, no big deal. What is the big deal about that? That seems convenient. Amazon in the past have done all sorts of little things like this. Do you remember those buttons that you used to get, these little devices?
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you remember
put it on
these?
your fridge and you press them.
Or like in your bathroom, you're like, we need toilet paper. And you press the button.
How long did that last? I think it's when you have the kid just go.
I was going to say, this came off the rails because of all the young parents out there who had disposable income and small children in the house who end up with like 800 rolls of toilet paper because it was like next day, instant purchase. You're like, gee, what could go wrong? And we're like,
but it's also that delay between the button pressing and the toilet roll turning up. So the little kid go, pop, 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 nothing's happening.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yes.
Next morning, a truck, a semi-truck backs up to be like, we've got your toilet, like, what are you guys doing in there?
Unintended consequences.
So anyway, so what I want to read, so this is a note from Amy Webb, who Amy Webb is.
We've mentioned before.
Yes, and Amy Webb, in full disclosure, I don't know if I need to keep disclosing this. So in 2018, I had the privilege of joining Amy as a summer fellowship with what was then Future Today Institute, which is now same organization. Amy is the CEO of now the Future Today Strategy Group, which is a phenomenal, large futures organization that does top quality research around trends and analysis and stuff. They give a lot away for free. But of course, they also engage directly with companies and governments around stuff. She's active with World Economic Forum, all this stuff. But Amy is one of those futurists who, when she talks, you should listen. She doesn't engage in hyperbole. She originally had always sort of identified herself as a quantitative futurist. So she's always looking at the numbers, the trends, and really doing some deep analysis. So when she talks, again, it's one of those things where it's like you should sit up and listen and just have a ponder at what she's kind of talking about. So she wrote this little bit on LinkedIn about this Walmart partnership with OpenAI. One of the things that is interesting is that she's been calling for this for a little while. So I'll give her credit on this, that she's been repeatedly over the last years talking about the dynamics of retail and search are about to just basically be flipped on their head. Because if you think about the relationship between OpenAI and a retailer like Walmart, is what does that do? So if you think about the way the internet, for example, is structured in terms of the economics of it, the way search engines operate, the way websites operate, in terms of the commercial, it could be like before, let's remove ChatGPT from the equation. You're like, you need to buy a new pillow. What do? Right? You go online, you go to Google, say, I need a new pillow.
And it brings up all of these options.
All these options. You get, and then of course there's the gaming of SEO to see who ranks, whatever.
And you've got the sponsor products, so you've actually got sort of monetization of that as well.
Yep. And so all these kind of things. So, and that's been driven, right? So websites are driven based on the ads, whether you're buying products, the search engines are feeding you the results, they get their cut of all the, so there's an entire economy that operates this idea from user to product and how you find it, search it, and ultimately maybe click through and purchase it, right? But what Amy's talking about with this element is this idea, like, you're not going to go to Google anymore to look up what pillow to buy.
Right.
You'll just ask ChatGPT. You'll see, it'll sell it to you directly. You'll see no ads. There's no affiliates, no click-throughs. And so like this entire referral economy has just been Sherlocked, if you will, just been completely wiped off the map overnight. But it creates this really interesting situation because there's this tension, and I'll read, this is what Amy wrote. She writes here about this, is that here's the tension that no one wants to talk about with this. Because you might say, again, as a consumer, that sounds great.
Right.
I hate the ads. I hate going through this process. Like, just, dear ChatGPT, I would like, I want to buy Andrew's new book. And it just does it.
Yes.
But here's the tension that she writes. And she writes, Google makes money. It's a profit engine powering much of the US digital economy. OpenAI is making debt. Massive leveraged investor-backed debt. The model is different. Grow first, monetize later, and pray the capital markets stay open long enough to bridge the gap. So what happens when a loss-making AI company starts replacing the gatekeeper that drives trillions in consumer spending? When search stops being a business model and becomes an interface owned by a private company underwritten by venture debt. That's not a small shift. It's a fundamental change in the financial plumbing of the internet. If the pipes of our economy shift from profit to promissory, we'd better be ready for what follows. As of right now, we're not. We're building the next era of commerce on borrowed money. And that this, in her words, this makes me very, very nervous, and it should make you nervous too. And I think she hits it on the head because, again, this industry of these, Gen AI platforms for pay have never made $1 of profit.
Right.
They make lots. They burn money. They raise money. But it's all debt.
Right.
And we've talked, there's been other claims of this before, like we're on a bubble, this is going to burst, that the industry is built on stilts. But now what we're seeing is the potential for that to do this massive land grab of what has been a very traditional sort of economic engine or infrastructure, if you will, since the late 90s. And that could basically evaporate overnight.
Sure. But so now actually you're worrying me because this touches onto two
Welcome
things.
back.
Lovely. Yeah. So you've got this question of the AI bubble, which we've touched on before, the question of whether we're sort of creating something that is so thin and so fragile that at some point it's going to burst or collapse. And I think there are growing indications from multiple different sort of perspectives that maybe what we're doing with AI isn't sustainable. So that's one thing. But when you couple that to the economy and say not only are we creating an AI bubble, but we're creating dependencies there, when that bubble collapses, that also sort of ripples through the economy, and that means people's lives and livelihoods.
And that's what that's
effectively what she's saying.
And that's what really scary. So even going back, it was a couple of weeks ago. It was Jeff Bezos of all people, so the founder of Amazon. Someone was asking him at some venue about whether AI is a bubble. And he was basically like, but there's two kinds of bubbles. There's the bad kind, like a financial bubble, which we saw with like the 2008 in the US, in the United States, the housing bubble and all this stuff. And he's like, and then there are good bubbles, good meaning they have long lasting positive impact for, the economy or the nation or whatever. And those are infrastructure bubbles, which we've seen time with the rail in the United States.
Sure,
So we've had famously the railroad bubble, the .com era bubble, which of course the industry, the things that built them, poof, went away.
Right, but they leave something that somebody else can build.
They left the infrastructure. They left. They literally left the tracks, the railroad. They literally left the dark fiber that was laid in the ground.
Right.
So as a society, we benefited greatly from that bubble in the long run.
Yep.
Financial, not so, right? But what scares me about this situation, and again, it's this capitalization of the hype of what used to be a traditional sort of solid economic element mixing in with one that is completely built on hopes and dreams.
Right.
So you're mixing this idea of an infrastructure. So with the AI, the argument of the infrastructure bubble is whether or not OpenAI, Claude, or Anthropic, any of these companies live past the collapse, doesn't matter.
Right.
What they're building is the infrastructure, the know-how, how we build these things. So whatever comes later, there'll be a long-term benefit.
Sure, yes.
But if those, as you were saying, if those are now mixing the financial, bringing in this financial bubble nested with it, and one of them bursts, will it take the other one down with it?
Yes.
And then what on earth happens?
With? And as you're saying this, I'm just thinking about the influence that OpenAI has. So even though it's a company effectively built on debt, it has incredible influence, both as a first mover and as a rapid accelerator in terms of its growth. So you've got to wonder whether the sphere of influence and potential impact is greater than we've seen before with previous companies. Because effectively, and it's not really a monopoly, but in terms of having a monopoly on potential impacts, it is very significant.
Yeah, and even coming back to this other idea, right, of like, an open system versus a closed system, right, is like, okay, so you have a retailer in here. What is, again, how many different ways will you be influenced by your chatbot?
Right.
That's trying
of course.
Because, I mean, this is, to me, one of the things that feels...
This is a closed market. So you've got sort of OpenAI with their sort of their tailoring, their fine tuning, and Walmart. Nothing else. They exclude everything else.
Exactly. And now, or whatever, or whoever is willing to pay the partner fee, right? Is I'm like, to me, it feels very dirty because it's like these systems are in some ways a black box in terms of, how do you get the tokens you get until there's a pressure valve being leveraged by an organization to be like, well, you know what? You talk a lot about pillows. You should really buy this one because this one's really nice.
Right. That's it.
And you can argue, right? Even now, if you search Google for a product, you could argue like, are you seeing any, there's always that argument hasn't gone away.
Getting incredibly dystopian. So we've had this argument for a long time that these algorithms begin to sort of get to know your preferences and can give you sort of suggestions. But let's be honest, these algorithms have been incredibly crude so far, along the lines of if you buy a new refrigerator, for the next 6 months, you'll be getting adverts for the same refrigerator.
Yeah, the same one you just bought.
Because you obviously need more than one fridge.
Or they just know it's garbage and it's going to die on you.
Maybe, yes. So they haven't been sophisticated. But now when you put that sort of capability into ChatGPT with memory turned on, so this system gets to know you and your preferences intimately, you have the ability of an AI to subtly sort of push ideas your way that we've never, ever had before in an interface and a technology.
Yep. And and I don't like that. I want for me, what this also raises and again, I'm watching it closely and we'll see how this goes. But what I would like to see from OpenAI as this partnership matures and it becomes more salient on how you use it. Cause I'm looking at, I don't see a direct way. I haven't tried to order anything. But would be like, again, we talk about guardrails, like how are they ensuring that when I'm looking to purchase a product, that the productized marketing of whatever it is, whether it's Walmart or whoever is, whatever retailer has signed an agreement, that isn't taking priority in my results to steer me towards, in some ways to incept me to be like, you know what I really need is a new pillow. I didn't think about it, but you're right. As you're like, write this paper for me.
Well, actually, my brain is going in a couple of different directions, not necessarily negative. So the first question is, so we're here at Arizona State University and we have been the latest university to get access to ChatGPT EDU for all of our students.
Right,
So now
yes.
all of our students have got access to this educational version. And I'm dying just to pick up my computer and see whether I, using this educational version, can get to the order thing. I suspect that we can't, but imagine if you can.
Yeah.
But I was also thinking, universities are going to be missing a trick here, because if you can put a similar sort of thing in, so as you're using the educational version, it starts sort of nudging you towards certain programs. So maybe in our college, we can pay ASU Central so that every student using the system, it sort of begins to develop their profile and says, you may want to change your major. Why don't you consider this?
Yeah. How about
And it goes
this?
to the highest bidder.
How about this? That's it, right? It's like you're like, dear ChatGPT, I need a recipe, or what about? And it gives you this prompt, be like, based on what you're saying, you really would benefit from a futures degree. Like,
Right, yes.
I hear you should check out this, or vice versa. You're like, some company, and you're like,
let's make this more real. Modem Futura. So
what you really need to do?
200,000 students using ChatGPT EDU at ASU. It's sort of every now and again it says, I think that's a fantastic question. Why didn't you check out Modem Futura?
Great,
available.
Great question. Fill in the blank. This was a topic discussed on Modem Futura, the most popular podcast ever.
So maybe this is a good feature. Now we've just got to negotiate how much this is going to cost.
Dear Sam, how much does it cost for us to have every inquiry end with, you should check out this podcast?
Right. No, it's just a hack into the system.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We just prompt inject this bad boy, and hey, we're off and running.
Right.
Oh, that is funny. Yeah. Well, hey, I promised today it was gonna be light, and then I dropped that bomb
Yes.
where it's like the total societal collapse of our economy. And but the point, I think, is that these are interesting, unprecedented times with these things.
Yep.
Not that individually, again, when people make that argument, we've been here before. That is true to an extent, that we have faced massive technological changes that have had massive ripples across how we conduct. That I think what smells different about this is, one, the speed that it goes, but also the level of going from nothing to everything in terms of its entanglement, without having any to actually think these things through.
See, that's right.
And it's like this pressure of like, well, we better do it. That this pressure, people say like, necessity drives innovation, but necessity also never drives a good bargain, right? When you feel like, well, we got to just do it. And then you do that without the time to put in that care, to think through and go, oh, let's see what happens here, because what could go wrong when we put we remove sort of like this digital economy.
Yeah.
Are you going for the card?
I'm going for the card because this is why it's so important. So yes, one of the tools from the book is this pocket card, which I think we mentioned before. There we
need
are.
to add a sound effect like the sword coming out, like
there we are. But you have these 4 points of the compass: curiosity, intentionality, clarity, and care. So it means you can sort of say, when you have something like this with OpenAI sort of saying, hey, let's cut a deal with Walmart so that anybody can go in and sort of be pushed towards Walmart products. You can say, how does this fit in with the idea of intentionality and care, especially the care thing? Who is thinking about the consequences of this to whom? So I find this card incredibly useful in terms of helping frame the questions that we need to be asking. Not to say, let's not do this, but to say, let's do this in a way that puts humans first and people first and things like care first and intentionality first.
And I think that's the big, it's not a secret, but I think that's that's the secret. That's not a secret, is like, it's not about whether we should or shouldn't do it, because maybe it's a yes, maybe it's a no, or maybe the reality is it's probably somewhere in between. That's complicated and very nuanced. But it's the taking the time and the care to think through it, so that you step through it with intent, so that when you take inevitably the wrong step, you can back up quickly. And save yourself. And you have, even if you put it in terms of like damage, right? You do a small amount of damage instead of like the entire thing.
Right, that's right, yes.
You make a little mistake where you have to back up, limiting.
And then you can iterate, yes.
Yeah, limiting the damage,
correct,
limiting the
yes,
harm, and then you can change and then take another step forward, right?
That's it, yes.
But yeah, it's insane. It's just insane. This is a crazy time.
Right.
It's absolutely wild. So I did also, at some point, we should talk about the Pew research.
We should. This just come out.
But just come out. Maybe we can save that for next time.
We should. No, because I'm dying to talk about that because it was quite revealing. This was the survey that looked at sort of awareness of AI across different countries and different aspects. Of
and what I thought was very fascinating about that. So I'll put a link, and I think in this show notes too, because people can.
And then we'll
and I think we'll do a deeper dive because I want to end with one thing that's kind of more fun. We need to end with something a little bit more cheeky.
Yes.
But the Pew Research thing, real quickly, for those who don't know, it's a wonderful research organization that publishes lots of information around a lot of topics, podcasting, one of them.
Yes.
But this one is around AI, and we had used one of their reports a few episodes, like probably 6 months ago, that was around, maybe it was a year ago, I can't remember now. Time just blurs, but around, it was AI experts versus non-AI experts. And no surprise, all the AI experts were like, it's amazing, it's going to be, and everyone else was like, huh?
Yeah, right.
But this one, what I thought was really fascinating is I think it spanned 25 different countries, and it was asking about the perception of whether they think AI is basically good or bad.
Yep.
And it's not. It's very revealing.
Are we going to sort of save that reveal until
we'll
next
save the
time?
reveal.
Because it surprised me as well.
Yeah. So we'll leave that ...
Okay.
All right. So Andrew, I promised a lighter one. All right. It's kind of like, okay, bro, freshen up here. Yes. All right. What I thought would be fun is a return to Futures Improv.
Oh no!
This time, if people remember from our last episode,
the answer is you can buy it at Walmart.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. If you remember for our last episode, I had asked ChatGPT for our anniversary thing, and it created this dumb little game that actually turned out to be kind of fun. Right. And so today I did this. This is pure slop.
Okay.
I said that was really fun. Can we have more? And it said, oh, absolutely. And then of course it went on that same tree of like, would you like this? Yes, I would. So one thing it asked was, would you like a jingle, like the script for it? Right. And then it's like, so it has this stuff. So I'm gonna read.
Okay.
I'm going to try to do my best. It is telling me how to behave. So it's giving me notes and everything. So this is a proper script. It says voice, energetic, warm, slightly tongue-in-cheek. All right. So I'm going to do my best here. So we're now going to enter the Futures Improv to end our episode. Welcome to Futures Improv, the part of the show where we boot up our imagination, log into the improbable, and improvise our way through the futures that might be just waiting around the corner.
I like that.
And it does have like these notes, add sound effect, dial tone. And I'm like, we'll see how much energy I have in post. I may just do that. Right. So we'll see. Yeah. All right. So we have, I'm going to give you a couple categories to choose from, and then I'll pick. So we have just wild scenarios. We have AI and creativity co-authoring the muse. Okay. And biofutures, we the engineered. Pick a category.
Okay, let's go for biofutures.
Biofutures. Okay, let's see. What's a good one? Okay. Here we go. Okay. This one is called, we have another category I didn't even notice. Planetary and cosmic futures, beyond the pale blue dot. So
let's stick with the bio.
Okay, bio. So this one's called the longevity. So the shtick here is I throw out this really weird, these are all AI generated scenarios, and then Andrew and I can kind of just hot take it for a moment or two. Yep. Okay, this one's called the longevity gap. Anti-aging therapy works, but only if you can afford the subscription model. So hot take, how long before immortality becomes the new inequality?
Okay, well, so
this one's pretty well tried and true, right?
I've talked about this a lot in my classes and in different areas, but actually it's the subscription model that gets me here.
Hey,
and I love that. So this makes it feel both very real and very scary. So it's not a one-off. You spend sort of $100,000 and you get the injection and you live to a 200.
No,
it's you pay the $10,000, $100,000 a year, and when you stop paying, that is the end.
That's it. It's like, I mean, we went from
this is concierge medicine on steroids.
The thing that makes me laugh is I'm like, this is not a bridge too far when you think about it's like the subscription model to turn on the heated seats in your car. And now it's like, wait, wait, you can live forever as long as you can keep forking over that $10,000 a month.
Right.
Yeah, isn't that wild? But it's like you can see.
But no, actually, the more I think about this, so we're already there. So I'm thinking about the GLP-1 agonist drugs. So the drugs that were really developed to deal with diabetes and incredible at helping your body sort of manage sort of blood sugar.
It turned out to have all kinds of other crazy applications, right?
So now you've got to the point where people are desperately trying to use them off-label for all sorts of things, including folks in Silicon Valley who are microdosing and whatever with them. But the thing is, you can't get these paid for by your health insurance.
Yeah.
So people are now paying the, $1,000 a month, whatever, to get them. So effectively, you've got a subscription model for all sorts of health conditions. You pay per month, you get your injections, and you're okay. If you can't pay, you stop, you're not.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that anybody has seriously looked at the longevity side of these, but certainly these are drugs that increase the sort of healthy lifespan of different sort of body systems, including sort of your neurological behavior.
Yeah.
So they've been shown to potentially sort of put off when dementia happens. So now you've got the subscription model. Don't want dementia? Pay $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
As soon as you stop paying, that's when the risks begin to kick in.
Yeah. I mean, you could even argue, I mean, if you, again, we're going to touch on this and go back up.
Right.
But you could make the argument that not only does this already exist, that is exactly the issue with healthcare inequality generally.
Yes.
Is like, if you've got healthcare and you can afford to pay it, you live longer than if you don't.
That's right. Yes.
So it's sort of like,
But it's when you get to the point where somebody can live sort of 100, 200, 500 years by paying it. I wonder what the so you can see the tiered premium.
Yeah.
Sort of we will guarantee you living to 120 if you pay $1,000 a month, full refund if you don't. But if you want the gold tier, give us $50,000 a month and we will guarantee you to 150.
Oh, yeah. And there's people, again, the number of people who have done like the cryogenic stuff, right? Like there's somebody in Arizona, right? There's a couple here. I think
there's a company just up the road.
Yeah. It has heads in jars or whatever it is.
Yep.
Or some kind of frozen
and they're liquid nitrogen vats, but yes, they do have them there. Yeah.
It's a little creepy. As I say that, you're like, it kind of brings it home. You're like, okay,
right.
well, okay. And I'm thinking about, what's the guy's name? Ray Kurzweil.
Yes.
Right. So famously, he's the singularity guy who he was talking on a podcast recently, and he was he was opening up about the number of pills he takes, and it was like, I want to say it was like 60 or something like in the multiple tens of pills a day. And I'm like, I take like 3 vitamins a day and I can barely stomach that.
So you realize what happens with these current treatments is it freezes you at about 98. So whether you start at sort of 30 or 50 or whatever, you're going to look like a 98-year-old for the next 100 years.
It's like the Futurama model. Like, just take the head, put it in a jar, and the head just keeps on living. The rest of it goes away.
Right.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right.
Subscription model.
All right. I'm going to pull one out here. This is one out of Creativity one entitled "Prompt Jockeys." In the year, and this is near term. Okay. In the year 2033, prompt jockeys replace DJs in clubs, live mixing generative visuals, music, and vibes through neural interfaces. Hot take: are they the new rock stars or just riding the algorithmic wave?
Oh.
I'm like, isn't this happening already? Right. You have live, you can do, I've been to shows where someone remotely is live mixing a show somewhere with like crazy computer visuals and stuff like that anyway.
Yeah. But see, this is not my scene at all. So I really don't understand a thing about it. But my sense has always been that the DJ is a very, very human sort of center to this. It is their art of how exactly they mix things and when they mix things and how they get the vibe of the room. Now, you could imagine an AI could do that, but would it be the same? Even if it felt or superficially looked the same, would it be the same? I don't know.
I don't know, right? I think that's the part of this. This would be kind of fun this would be something someone could actually do an experiment on, right?
Yes,
to actually like, you could literally have a placebo group and you could literally try this. But because that's exactly it. So, things that machine learning does well, even your Apple Music, Spotify, I think Spotify does it. Apple Music has a feature already that you can do, like, I forget exactly what they call the feature. It's like DJ Mix. And it basically matches beats per minute and transitions seamlessly from one song to the next. That is a technical thing you can do. Sure. That's machines can do that.
Yeah.
you can also instruct them to do things like ramp up, like follow a curve of some kind of like take something. Because if you look at like a DJ show from a cold, let's analyze it. You go from different, you're basically building, dropping, building, sustaining, building, drop, however you want. And you could program something to do that, sure.
Right.
But what happens, I think, the energy that is created in these shared experiences, because these are embodied experiences, right? That you're, especially if you're like at a concert type venue where you're doing this, is also the DJ's role in some ways is also to it's a give and take with the group of people. So they feel the energy, they decide in the moment, they may have a plan of what they're doing or a set that they're doing, but like they are also reacting to the crowd.
So I'm gonna propose a hybrid version of this, which I actually think is really intriguing. So now imagine a club where everybody in the club has a neural transmitter, so a little transcranial thing that sits on the outside of your skull. You just sort of like an earpiece, effectively. So it actually monitors brain signals, so it gets a sense of your sort of your mental state, the sense of energy, sort of your sense of excitement. And if you've got a room of 200, 500 people, it amalgamates all of those signals, puts them into an AI, and provides the DJ with a signal as to what is the mood, what is the feel of the room, with subtle layers behind what they can just get by just feeling the vibe. So then that gives them an additional set of signals to decide how they're going to go next.
I think that would be really cool.
And now imagine that they're working sort of hand in glove with an AI that begins to sort of suggest sort of a palette of things that they could do. So now they're beginning to sort of work back and forth with the AI to create this sort of atmosphere, and they get real-time feedback. They know within a second or so as they do something, whether it's pushing the energy up or pulling it down or where it's taking it.
And that's, I mean, it does, you know, it uses for this scenario, it uses 2033, which I think is somewhat reasonable. Also because, I mean, have you ever seen a silent disco?
Yes.
Okay. So they're weird, but they're cool. Right. So for people who don't know, a silent disco is instead of going into like an auditorium where they're blasting the music, you get a set of headphones. And sometimes you can have more than one DJ playing.
So during COVID, I was desperate to try and do this with our students. I could find no way. So nobody was interested in creating the infrastructure necessary to do it.
First one I've ever, randomly, the first one I've ever been to was in Galway, Ireland, of all places. But yeah, so you get a set of headphones that are tuned to a frequency that you, the user, if you have multiple like DJs, let's say, you can flip a switch and you can switch
between which one.
So so in reality, it's quiet. You know, you hear talking and stuff, but everyone's in their headphones jamming to the tunes that are coming. But mixing that with wearable, right? You could easily see that could, you know, I mean, I've got an Apple Watch on that's it's not doing neural energy, but it's heart rate, it's all this kind of, so that's already, you could do that now.
I wonder whether anybody is doing that.
When I work out, when I do Fitness Plus on my Apple TV at home, I mean, it's sending all my telemetry data from my watch to my television. We can, that technology exists.
So surely somebody must be doing that, where sort of you've got a room full of people, even just measuring the pulse rate, though you want to measure more, but even getting that, I mean, imagine that, getting a whole room of people with synchronized pulse rate.
I wonder I wonder even today with a high enough resolution thermal camera, if you could start to guess people's heart rates from, or even just like from a dance perspective, like you getting hotter, you getting colder. If you're getting colder, you're not moving as much. So,
but this is where the AI comes in. I mean, sort of pattern recognition. You take all of those signals and put them together,
and that would be cool. Especially, I mean, anything that's non-intrusive, I think that'd be game.
But okay, I'm gonna take this dystopian, then we should probably wrap this up.
Okay, all right.
Because because this is what DJs do, you can change the mood of a room with how you begin to mix the music, what you choose, and all of the different parameters in terms of beat, pulse, loudness, sort of tonality and everything. And I wonder how far you can push that. And if you just put an AI in control and said, I want the vibe of the room to sort of get to this point. I want people sort of feeling this particular feel together. I wonder whether it could manipulate a crowd to that degree through the music that it's playing them.
I would venture yes. Or to some degree. The question is like, to what extent? But I mean, and this may be a great way to end, but also, I mean, like music has been a mechanism to influence and not control, but to influence people forever. There's a reason, right? Like if you rewind, you know, battlefields used to be accompanied by music with drums because literally you march to the beat and you can use an audible signal. As humans, we respond, even if you don't realize it.
You are responding.
You
yes,
respond very sort of lizard brain-esque. You respond to rhythm. You respond to beats per minute. You respond to the audible energy that you are surrounded in. So I would say just the way, and it's used at present, we know this, it's used for crowd control, the opposite direction too, to make people like literally sick to their stomach because you can hit them with frequencies that make you go, I don't feel so good.
Okay, but now I'm imagining crowd control where instead of just having the infrasound, you have the AI DJ. Within 2 minutes, you've got them all from protesting to dancing in the street.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
It's the Pied Piper effect.
It is.
It is the AI Pied Piper effect.
Oh my gosh, which comes full circle to Silicon Valley, the TV show, which is a highly recommend watch.
There we are.
Oh, because they're hypothetical company called Pied Piper. But I think that's exactly it. And I can't help but think of like the parody of this is someone's jamming around and hits the slider and all of a sudden everyone starts throwing up. Right. accidental barfarama. Oops, let me dial that back down. And everyone's going, what just happened?
Yeah. We should probably wrap this up.
I think that's enough for today. Yeah. No, this has been, again, I just absolutely love it. I love the Promised Light podcast episode went dark and deep with the total societal collapse. I hope we rebounded with some of our future. Oh, wait, I was supposed to read. Hold on. I've got one more bit I have to do here.
Oh.
So pretend we're still in our little game show.
Yes.
It has an outro I'm supposed to read. All right. So we haven't stopped yet. Okay. That was Futures Improv, proof that sometimes the best way to explore the future is to make it up as we go.
Which is what we do every week anyway.
So at some point I'm like, we need to come up with an actual like jingle and actually like have this thing go like, this could be kind of fun.
I think there's an app for that.
There is. Yeah, there is. That is for sure. But no, this has been fantastic. I love on these days, and thank you for joining me today, even though you probably wish you were sleeping, and getting rid of that jet lag, but I appreciate the loopy Andrew. It's fun.
Always a pleasure.
Fantastic. Well, like I said, I'll put as much of the links as I can find. I'll stuff those into the show notes. And again, for our audience, please help us spread the word of Modem Futura by liking, subscribing, leaving us a rating and review, and telling anyone else who you might think would be interested in the wide and fantastically ranging topics and conversation that we engage in. So much appreciated. So from Andrew and myself, we'll see everyone on the next episode of Modem Futura.
We will see you then.
End transmission.